welcome to my channel. My name is Temitope. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for checking in again. Today we are going to be making this pleated gown. It's a pleated gown with a standing shoulder flap. So if this is what you're interested in, you want to continue watching this video. So do not forget to like, subscribe, and also turn on your notification bell so you get notified the first time I upload a new video. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out 2 yards and 10 inches from these 3 yards, and I'm going to be using the rest for the upper part. So to draft the upper part, I've already drawn a straight line to indicate that will be the starting point. So I'm going to be cutting out my neckline first. So I'm going to be using 3.5 inches by 3.5 for the neckline. I'm going to use my curve rule to connect it like this. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to take the shoulder measurement. So I'm going to be dividing my client's shoulder measurements by 2. So that will give me 7 3/4. So I've marked it there. Then I'm going to come down by 1 inch, and I'm going to be connecting this to the neckline. So from this shoulder line, I'm going to be taking my armhole depth. So to do this, I'm going to be dividing the bust measurement by 6, and I'm going to be adding 1.5 inches to that. So I'm going to mark that there, and that will serve as my chest line. So I'm going to take my rule now and mark a straight line across that point. Then I'm going to be connecting from the shoulder to that chest line. So that will be my armhole depth. So on my chest line, I'm going to be dividing my bust measurements into 4. I'm going to be taking my bust measurement. So I'll divide it into 4, and I'm going to mark it there. So my bust is 38 inches here. Then I'm going to divide by 4. So that will give me 9.25. Then on the armhole depth, I'm going to be locating the middle of the armhole. Then I'm going to mark it there. Then I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch at that point. Then I'm going to be connecting these 3 points together with my curve rule. So I'm going to be taking my other vertical measurement. So I'm going to take my bust point, which is 10.5, the under bust, which is 13.5 inches, and I'll be taking the waist half length too, which is 16 inches. So I'm going to draw a straight line across each point. So this is my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline, which is also the half length. So now I'm going to be placing the dart on the bust point line. So I'm going to be using my nipple to nipple measurements. I'm going to be dividing that by 2. So that will be 3 inches. And I'm also going to mark that on the waistline also. Then I'm going to use my ruler to mark a straight line to coordinate this point. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to be locating the middle, because we are going to be using a shoulder dart for this style. So I'm going to divide that into 2, mark it, then I'm going to be connecting it to the bust point, to the dart line on the bust point. So on the waistline, I'm going to be taking 1/2 inch on both sides. So this will be the dart, then I'm going to be connecting it upward. Then I'll be taking other horizontal measurements. We already have our bust measurement, so I'm going to be taking my under bust measurement on the other bust line. I'll divide it by 4 and mark it. Then on the waistline also, I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement by 4, mark it. Then I'm going to measure what I have for the dart there, which is 1 inch, and I'm going to be placing it back. Then I'm going to be connecting the lines together. So now I can go ahead and cut it out. So this is the back pattern. I've already marked the straight line for the starting point. So I'm going to be placing the front pattern on it so as to mark the horizontal line, just to indicate it, so that I will not have to measuring that again. So now I'm going to draw a straight line across each point to indicate the lines. Then I'm just going to label it, this chest line, the bust points, under bust, and the waistline. Then the first thing I'm going to be doing is to remove the zip budge. So I'm going to be taking 3/4 inch on the waistline there, and I'm just going to connect it upward. Then I'm going to be marking the zipper allowance. So I'm just going to be marking 1 inch all across the point. You can see the way I mark it is not a straight line, it follows the zip budge curve that I already removed. So I'm just going to cancel this part so that we don't get confused. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to take the neck measurement. Like we did for the front, we used 3.5 So I'm going to be using 3.5 by 1 for the back neckline. Then I'm going to use my curve rule to connect it together. Then I'm going to be measuring out the shoulder also. Like we did earlier, I'm going to be dividing the shoulder into 2. So you can see where I'm starting my measurement from. I'm not starting it from the zipper allowance. It's the line after the zipper allowance. So please take note of that. So on that shoulder line, I'm going to connect it to the chest line and come down by 1/2 an inch, then connect it to the neckline. Then I'm going to be locating the middle of the armhole. I'm going to mark it there. Then on my bust point, on my bust line, I'm going to be taking the bust measurement. So you can see that when I'm placing my tape rule, I left the zipper allowance alone. Then I start from that line. So I'm going to be dividing the bust by 4, and then I'm going to go ahead and mark it, which is 9.5. Then on the armhole line, that middle line, I'm going to be coming out by 1/2 an inch, just like we did to the front. And then I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together, and this will be my armhole curve. So on the bust point, I'm going to be placing my dart, and that is half of the nipple to nipple measurement. So the nipple to nipple measurement is 6, half is 3 inches. So I marked 3 inches there, and I've connected it down to the waistline. And on the shoulder line, I'm going to be dividing it into 2, just like we did to the front, because we'll also be needing the shoulder dart at the back also to fix our flap. So now I'm going to be taking the dart on both sides on the waistline. So I'm taking 1/2 an inch on both sides, and then I'm going to be connecting it upward. Now I'm going to be taking other horizontal measurements. So I'm going to be taking the under bust. I'm going to divide the under bust by 4, and I'm going to mark it. Then I'm going to measure what we have for the allowance, and then I'm going to be placing it back. Then on the waistline also, I'm going to be dividing the waist measurement into 4. I'll mark it and then measure what we have for the dart, and then I'm going to be placing it back here. So now I'm going to be connecting all the lines together. So now I can go ahead and cut it out. So before I further keep cutting, I'm going to be coming up by 1/2 an inch there. 3/4 of an. I'm going to be coming up by 1 inch. This is to, since we did not take our side dart, so this is also to remove the zip bulge. So I'm just going to be connecting it like this. So instead of the side dart, I'm going to be doing this so that I do not have any back bulge. So I can go ahead and cut out the dart now. This is the front pattern. Actually, I made a mistake on the front part. The under bust part, I did not take out the dart allowance before shaping it. So now I have another paper on this side. You can see that I glued another paper to it. So I'll be retaking my under bust measurements now. So divided by 4 is 31. So divided by 4, I have 7 3/4. And that's exactly what I have there. So now I'm going to be marking the dart allowance and be placing it back. So that means I'm going to have to reconnect everything. Because if I don't do this, it's going to have effect on my fabric or the allowance that I have, my seam allowance. So now I'm going to be connecting it to the waistline. So now I can go ahead and trim it off. So I'm going to actually cut this out on my fabric. You can see the front part does not have any because it's on fold. And there's no allowance there, so I have allowance on the sides, 1/2 an inch all around it. But on the side, which is the center, the front, the side front, I have 2 inches there because I want that place to, I want to have enough allowance there so that I can loosen it out anytime I feel like. So I have also gonna have to cut the lining, and the same thing, you can see the back, I have 1/2 an inch all around and 2 inches at the side also, and I'm gonna have to cut the lining. You can see that the center back is not on fold because there's going to be a zipper there. So this, I'm going to be using this satin for the flap. So I have a yard of satin here, so I'm going to be cutting both sides together. I'm going to be using my half length to cut the flap. So the half length is 16. For the front and back is going to be making 32. So that means I need more than 32 inches because it's going to be having a pleat. So now I'm cutting both together. Now you can see I have this folded into 4. So I want the length, the width, the wideness to be 7.5, so that by the time I finish it's going to be 6.5. And at this lower part here, I'm going to make it 3.5. Then I'm going to be connecting it like this. I'm going to make it slanty. So I'm going to be connecting from 7.5 to the 3.5 mark, just like this. You can use your ruler. You can as well use your free hand to just draw it out. So this way I've cut both sides together, the front and the back for both sides. So now I'm going to go ahead and divide it into 2 so that I can have each one, so you can see. So if you are using the satin for the lining, you don't have to divide it, you just cut another one like that. So that means you'll be having 4 pieces. But because I'm not using the satin for the lining, so I'm just having 2 pieces. So I'll be using taffeta for the lining. So you can start to use satin or something else, but I want to use taffeta for mine. So you can see I'm placing the satin on it and I'm cutting it out. So this is the lining. I've already gone ahead to iron my interface. I used hard stay on the lining. Then I'm going to be placing the satin on it, pinning it down, then stitching it all around in the curved area. So you can see it's only the curved area that I stitch. So I'm going to go ahead now and press this down and then put it aside. So this is the front part. You can see that I have a cross mark there. That's indicating that it's the wrong side. So I'm going to remove the center and then I'll be working on the side fronts. So now I'm going to be bringing the back side, the side back also. So there is actually a difference. You can see that I have different stroke for it so that I don't mix it up. So I have 2 strokes for the side back. So now I'm going to be placing it like this. You can see the way I'm placing them facing each other because I'm going to be joining their shoulders together. So I'm going to pin it now and then go ahead to stitch it by 1/2 inch. Now these are the center front and center back. I'm also going to be joining this also by the shoulder by 1/2 inch. I'm going to be stitching them together. So I already have them stitched together here. You can see this is the side front and the side back. So I'm going to place a flap on it like this. You can see that the right side is what I have facing me. So here I'm trying to locate the middle of the flap before I go ahead to pleat it on the shoulder or on the side front and side back. So you can see the way I'm placing the notch part on the shoulder exactly. So I'm going to pin that down. Then I'm going to go ahead and be pleating the other ones. So notice how I took this. You can see where I started from one part of from the side back. So now I'm going to be pleating it upward like this. So you can see. Then I'll keep pleating until I have nothing else to pleat. And I'm going to be doing that all the way down. So now I'm going to go ahead and stitch it down. I'm just going to run a stitch here just to put it in place. And I've done the same thing to the other side. You can see that that's the center front because of the mark. I used the multiplication mark there. So I'm going to be placing the center front here like this. And I'm going to be stitching the side front and side back to them like this. You can see the way I'm placing it. I'm making sure that the shoulder is on the shoulder. And then I'm stitching it. I'm going to be stitching them on the wrong side. So I'm going to stitch it all the way down. I'm done stitching both sides and this is what it looks like. So I'm going to be stitching the lining together. Then this is the back line. I'm also going to be stitching them together. So I'm done doing that. So I'm going to be placing the back on the front and I'm going to be joining them shoulder to shoulder. Then I'm going to be placing them on the main fabric. So now I'm done joining them. So I'm going to be placing the lining on the fabric. You can see the way I lay them. So I make sure that every part is aligning. So I'm joining the shoulder together, pinning the shoulder together first so that I can make it align. Then now I'm going to be stitching the neck down first. That's why I'm pinning it all around. then I'm going to stitch it down. So when I'm done stitching it down, I'm just going to notch this place now so that it can relax. Then after notching, I'm going to be flipping it to the right side. You can see I have it on the right side now. Now I'm going to make sure that the stitch part is facing the lining area, and then I'm going to top stitch. So I'm done top stitching it. Next thing now is to stitch the lining to the fabric on the sides and on the armhole area. So now watch the way I'm doing this on the armhole area. So I'm making sure that the flap is in between the Ankara and the lining. So you can see the way I'm placing it. So I'm going to pin it down at the shoulder area there, and I'm going to be stitching it around the armhole and also the side on the right and for the front and the back part. So I'm just going to pulling it out here. I actually sew only one side. You can see that I stitch only one side. The second side is yet to be stitched. So now what I'm going to do to stitch this one is, you can see the way I'm folding everything in. So I'm going to be putting everything in between the fabric and the lining to stitch the other side. So I'm going to pin it together at the shoulder, and then I'm going to be stitching around the armhole towards the side here, and the other side too. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm done doing that, remaining the zipper area. So you can see the way I'm flipping the lining to the Ankara backward to fix the zipper area. So I'm done doing that, and I've also top stitched it at the lower parts for the front and the back. So now I want to close the zipper area so that I'll be able to shape my bodice. So I'm going to be measuring 1 inch all around to fix the zipper area. So now that I've closed that part, I'm going to be placing it like this, pinning it together, then I'm going to be shaping the bodice. So now for the bust parts, I'm going to be dividing the bust measurement by 2 this time around. I'm going to mark it, then what I have left here, I'm going to measure it and then divide that into 2, and then I'll be taking it on both sides. So I have 3 inches left, so I'm taking 1.5 inch on both sides. So for the under bust too, I'm going to be dividing the other bust measurement into 2. So now I'm marking what I have left. I have about 3 inches, then I'm taking 1.5 on both sides. Then for the waist also, I will divide the waist measurement into 2. So I'm going to mark it there, then measure what I have left, and then divide it into 2, and I'm going to be taking it on each side. So now I'm going to be connecting with my curve rule. So I'll be stitching on both sides. I'll make sure I do not stitch on the flap. So this is what it looks like for the front and the back. So now I have to loosen the pin so that I'm able to pleat the lower fabric to the upper one. So you can see the way I'm placing it. I'm making sure that the right side is facing the right side, and I'll be stitching on the wrong side. So before I start stitching from the waistline, from the zipper area, I'm going to leave about 1 inch on pleated. On pleats there, I will not pleat about 1 inch. So it was after 1 inch that I'll start pleating all around. So and I'll make sure that the pleats actually go around the waist. So now I'm done doing that, and I'm just trying to fix the zipper. So from the waist downward, I'm going to leave about 7 inches. Then I'm going to stitch the rest downward. So the space is going to be for the zip. Now I have lining here. I'm going to be putting lining on the lower part. So I have about half of an inch, half yard lining here. So the closed part, I left 5 inches space at this lower part, and then I stitched it around. Then this upper part where the zipper is going to get to, I left about 8 inches. So watch the way I'm placing the lining. So I want to place it such a way that I'm going to be pleating it on the wrong side. So you can see that I left a space of 1 inch before I started placing the lining. So that part is going to be the zipper allowance. I don't want the zipper to be on the lining. So I'm going to be pleating it all around till it gets to the end, to the other end. So I'm going to be pleating it. So by the time I pleat it, I'm going to be flipping it to the other side. So we are going to have a very neat finishing. So the stitches will not be showing. So when I'm done, I'm going to stop by 1 inch before it also. So now you can see the way the inside is looking. It's looking so neat and fine. So now I'm going to be placing the zipper here. You can see that the lining, the opening for the lining is deeper than that of the fabric. That's because I use 8 inches for the lining and 7 inches for the ankara. So I'm going to be fixing the zip about 1 inch all the way down, just like you fix your regular zip. And then this lower part, I'm going to be folding it by half of an inch, and I'll be stitching it all around. So this is the result of our dress. So thank you for watching. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and also give your comments. Bye.